Last weekend, I almost stepped up.
Call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. Supervisor Stagliano, do this, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please remain standing for a moment of silence? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Grieco.
Here.
Supervisor Stark.
Here.
Supervisor Barone.
Here.
Supervisor Wheeler.
Here.
Supervisor Chair.
Here.
Supervisor Demeza.
Here.
Supervisor Allen.
Here.
Supervisor Sullivan.
Here.
Supervisor Strebe.
Here.
Supervisor Coddington.
Here.
Supervisor Quackenbush. Supervisor Radzikowski.
Here.
Supervisor Sweet.
Present.
Chairman Fair.
Here.
Supervisor Stagliano.
Here.
Open the floor to public comment. If you have a comment, please stand and identify yourself and then give us your comment. Hearing none, we'll close the public comment. Would, both Mrs. Walters, please come up. And Frankie and Johnny as well, if they want to. Just pull it towards you. We have this plaque from the Board of Supervisors in memory of Shane for you. And we have a proclamation, if I can bring up enough wind to read through it. This proclamation is in memory of Shane T. Walters. Whereas Shane T. Walters began his career as a supervisor of the town of Charleston on January 1st, 2004, and became a sitting supervisor of Montgomery County Board of Supervisors until October the 8th, 2012. And whereas Shane T. Walters served as chairman of the Montgomery County General Services Committee for the years 2005 through 2011, and went out of his way to meet with his departments, consistently attending staff meetings and always trying to gain a greater understanding of how they operate. He was a mentor to these departments, a boss, and an advocate on their behalf, and dedicated himself completely, as he did with any of the many interests in his life. And whereas Shane T. Walters served as chairman of the Board of Supervisors from January 1st, 2012 until he passed on October the 8th, 2012 at the young age of 49 after fighting a courageous battle with cancer. And whereas as chairman, Shane was tough but fair and brought the department heads closer to the board and encouraged them to speak their minds, which often resulted in spirited debates, and used their expertise to try and solve the county's budget problems. And whereas Shane's main focus as a politician was that of an advocate for services not mandated by the state, such as agriculture, economic development, plowing, mowing, and paving projects in the county's soil and water conservation district. And whereas Shane was known to residents of his community as a chairman for all his tireless efforts in the wake of tropical storms Irene and Lee, who persuaded every federal and state official he could reach to come view his constituency's pain and need for help, as portions of Charleston and neighboring Schoharie County were absolutely devastated by the storms. Houses were literally washed away, and he organized multiple volunteer groups to help gather belongings of neighbors that were strewn in trees and all about. Shane made it his mission to get FEMA on site and to help his constituents any way possible to remove tons of stone and debris deposited by flooded Schoharie Creek. All of this while his own farm needed his hand. He felt it more important to help those more in need. And whereas it is difficult to fit words together to properly describe a man like Shane Walters, because like Shane, There's just too much to say that words don't line up nice and straight. He was a farmer, a musician, a public servant, and a family man. He approached farming and music with the mind of a historian, always wanting to preserve the simplicity of our culture. He made statements like, "Why not use barbed wire? It worked for hundreds of years before us. And why bring the horses inside when it snows? They love it outside." If you ask him if he knew a certain old-time song, he would ask if you want the northern version or the southern version, pre-Civil War or post-Civil War. He seemed to know everything about everything. And this was long before the internet. And whereas a musician, he could play at least 5 instruments proficiently, which could not be considered a gift, as Shane worked for hours and hours on these instruments, understanding everything from the wood they were constructed from and the sounds the strings could produce. His style was both raw and beautiful, untrained but filled with feeling. His love for music was immeasurable. He was known to routinely spend hours and hours playing fiddle or guitar late into the night. For those that had the pleasure of playing with him, his loss was grave and deep. You not only became a better musician, but you also got a history lesson and plenty of inspiration from him. And whereas whether playing music, holding government meetings, or driving his horses, Shane dressed and acted like a farmer, as Shane was Shane in any situation and did not change to suit his surroundings. Shane was very passionate about his Belgian draft horses and teaching people how to drive them. He got a special treat this past summer when he was able to purchase a very special Hackney horse, which was exactly what he'd been looking for. Unfortunately, he only got to show the horse once, but he had a great time and could not stop talking about it. Shane was also able to complete one other amazing feat this year by organizing and calling the first ever horseback square dance in this area, which was held at the Cobleskill Fair. It was highly successful, and he had many requests to perform others in the coming year. Now, therefore, I, John W. Thayer, Chairman of the Montgomery County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proudly issue this proclamation in memory of Shane T. Walters, who was a non-selfish man who had a big heart, led a life of good choices, a life of honor, integrity, faith, and righteousness, and had a genuine care for people, his family, and animals, and left an imprint on the lives of all those he touched. Very welcome. I want you to know that it was a pleasure knowing Shane, and his memory will be with me always. Appreciate it. You don't have to.
No, it's just, thank you so much. It has been such a wonderful honor and pleasure for us to know that people liked Shane as much as we loved him. We'll never forget it. You got us through the worst horror of our lives. Every one of you touched us in some way and got us through some really tough times. And we're not doing too well yet, but we know that he was appreciated for who he was and his strengths, and we have to remember he was strong and we have to be strong. And also he was of truth, and truth is more important than anything else in the whole world. Be truthful to God, be truthful to yourselves, and be truthful to one another. Don't lie. He hated lies, and he would unearth them if he could. Bless you all, and thanks again for a wonderful time. Okay.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Ron Barone, Tom Quackenbush. Changes, corrections, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Are approved. We have a motion to approve the budgetary transfers. Supervisor Sweet, Supervisor Coddington. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Unfinished business? No unfinished business. We'll move on to the resolutions. Let me catch my wind here. First up is resolution number 267, resolution authorizing chairman to sign a 2013 Agreement Values Improvement Program, Youth, ATI, and Veterans, sponsored by Sweet, seconded by Strebe. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Next up is resolution number 268, resolution authorizing chairman to sign 2013 agreement, Live at 25, Younger Driver Education Program, Youth, ATI, and Veterans, sponsored by Sweet, seconded by Coddington. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It is approved. Resolution number 269, resolution appointing members, Montgomery County Traffic Safety Board, Youth, ATI, and Veterans, sponsored by Sweet, seconded by Strebe. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Resolution number 270, resolution authorizing chairman to sign agreement, pretrial release coordinator, Leslie Nichols, Youth, ATI, and Veterans, sponsored by Sweet, seconded by Richkowski. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Is passed. Resolution number 271, resolution authorizing chairman to sign renewal agreement, transportation of Fulton County, Veterans, Youth, and ATI. Sponsored by Richkowski, seconded by Wheeler. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Resolution number 272, resolution appointing members, Montgomery County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Youth, ATI, Veterans, sponsored by Sweet, seconded by Coddington. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Is passed. Resolution number 273, resolution authorizing chairman to sign agreements, community services, mental health, sponsored by Richkowski, seconded by Strebe. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Is passed. Resolution number 274, resolution awarding bid 07-12, maintenance and repair of digital microwave system, emergency management, sponsored by Sweet, seconded by Coddington. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Is passed. Resolution number 275, resolution appointing members of Montgomery County Fire Advisory Board, Emergency Management, sponsored by Sweet, seconded by Richkowski. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Is passed. Resolution number 276, resolution appointing members, Montgomery County EMS Advisory Board, Emergency Management, sponsored by Sweet, seconded by Richkowski. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Is passed. Resolution number 277, resolution reappointing public defender, sponsored by Thayer, seconded by Sweet. Discussion.
Full board.
Full board?
Full board.
All in favor?
Aye.
You have to put up with us a while longer. Resolution number 278, resolution authorizing chairman to sign the New York State Indigent Legal Services Grant and amending the 2012 operating budget. Public defender, sponsored by Sweet, seconded by Richkowski. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's passed. Next up, resolution number 279, resolution authorizing the chairman to sign corrective action response, New York State DOT Federal Programs Remote System Review 2012, Economic Development. Sponsored by Allen, seconded by Stark. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It is carried. Resolution number 280, resolution approving the issuance of certain bonds by Montgomery County Industrial Development Agency to finance a certain manufacturing facility project for M.H. Stallman Company, Economic Development and Planning, sponsored by Thayer, seconded by Quackenbush. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It's passed. Resolution number 281 is a resolution authorizing chairman to sign agreements for services approved by the 2013 Social Services Operating Budget, Social Services, sponsored by Thayer, seconded by Quackenbush. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Supervisor Rico abstains. It is passed. Resolution number 282, resolution authorizing the chairman of the board to execute an agreement with LexisNexis Sheriff, sponsored by Thayer, seconded by Sweet. And apparently you have a typo in the second whereas line. The date should be January 1, 2015 as the ending date.
January 31.
31
January 31, 2015.
instead of January 1.
Right.
Treat that as a typo. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? It is passed. Resolution number 283, resolution authorizing the chairman of the board to execute an agreement with Matrix Quality Care Incorporated and rescinding resolution number 206 of 2012, Board of Supervisors. Sponsored by Greco, seconded by Streeter. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Resolution number 284, resolution amending 2012 operating budget, medical fees for the coroner. Sponsored by Thayer, seconded by Allen. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? I'm Quackenbush abstains.
Abstains?
He abstains. Resolution is passed. Next up, resolution number 285, resolution amending 2012 operating budget carryover grant funds, public health. Sponsored by Thayer, seconded by Sweet. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Resolution is passed. Resolution number 286, resolution approving abstract of audited claims. Sponsored by Thayer, seconded by Chiara. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Barone, Demeza, Wheeler.
Resolution's passed.
Resolution number 287, resolution amending 2013 tentative budget, Office for Aging, sponsored by Chiara, seconded by Demeza. Discussion. Ron.
I'd like to make an amendment to this. I don't mind the $4,000, but I want it dedicated to Meals on Wheels, not to be used in any other direction but for Meals on Wheels.
Do we have a second to that amendment? I'll second it, Ron, for discussion. Tom?
I was gonna second it to have the discussion, I don't mind doing that, but is it, Doug, in your opinion, is that,
You can restrict, put a stipulation on the allocation if you choose to.
Just move the other money around. Further discussion on the amendment? On the amendment, all in favor? Oh, I'm sorry,
let me say-
Supervisor Stagliano.
In support of, I don't think that it matters, because I think the 210,000 is the threshold by which OFA gets their maximum aid back from the rest. So I don't think it has a negative effect on it, and so I would support it. I don't think it makes it a big difference.
Supervisor Wheeler.
I just have a question as to why there wasn't an additional 2 or something for Cornell Cooperative Extension, the other outside agency, because there's also matching dollars with that. With every dollar that's given for the local, there's matching dollars for state and federal. That's the only reason why I'm not going to support this. So I just wanted to explain that.
Supervisor Chiara, then Supervisor.
Several
Stagliano.
times I've had the opportunity to go to the Office for the Aging and actually talk to Mrs. Broyles. And I asked her very specifically about the dollar amount. She indicated to me that the 210 was necessary, as Dominic points out, in order to get the funding. So wherever the funding goes, it goes for all the programs. I think that's the key for the 210. They needed 210 to get the amount of dollars, and she's got a sheet here if anyone wanted to see it, to indicate how that has to be disseminated. So he is correct, Dominic is correct in what he's saying. This is to get the funding. How it's used, I guess, is up to them. But it's to get the funding for all these programs they do. And I don't think you can just shirk it and say that you're going to allocate it to one. That I did not discuss. I did discuss that with her at the very first meeting I had with her several months ago. And she indicated to me that this is the way it has to work with the federal guidelines and state guidelines. And she's a professional, and I respect her, and I think this is necessary for the citizens of Montgomery County. And I support this totally
Are you done, Supervisor Chiara?
for now.
Supervisor? Nothing? Further discussion on the amendment? Supervisor Quackenbush.
Supervisor Wheeler brings up the point of Cornell Cooperative. I mean, I understand why it wasn't brought up in this resolution, but what is the amount that will bring them back to where they were? You know what that is?
Probably about 40,000.
We have a representative from Cornell Cooperative Extension here tonight. If he
What you
can-
put back in the budget the last meeting, the 70 is level from where we were in 2012. That is above the threshold that will allow us to get our state and federal funds. It's not an exact dollar for dollar match, but the 70 allows us to receive funds. So of course, if you want to be generous and give us more, we can put it back.
But for every dollar that you do receive, there is a match.
$4, yeah.
Okay, I was just pointing out that there was
Are you
a,
good or you're not? I mean, are you, where you're at is where you were?
Where we're
last
at right now is Montgomery County will be level. Fulton County, we've got a small increase. So we'll be able to continue the programs that we have done this year.
Sorry, Russ.
Supervisor Collins.
Yeah, I have no problem supporting Ron's amendment here, but the only question I would have is if we do this, will this hamper the Office of the Aging in doing their business? I guess that's the question. If I ask Supervisor Jerome, have you checked on that?
In no way will it hinder them whatsoever. No way whatsoever. I've done this probably the last 20 years. Amended there one way or the other, and I've sat with every director that's been on that board, including the priest.
I don't want to cause the...
No, exactly. It wouldn't hurt them in any way, but it's dedicated. We did it last year, too. We dedicated the funding towards Meals on Wheels. They're still going to get their money match, no matter what.
Done, Supervisor Cottington?
Yes.
Supervisor Streeter?
I agree with Ron. If we could swing it in that direction for Meals on Wheels, it would certainly be probably the most help to the most people. But I would leave it up to the director as to how she wants to spend that money. If we wanted to re-examine the whole program on a whole, going into a new budget year, that would be something different, but I think it's a little late in the game to shift gears. But Ron, I do agree, but I'm not going to support it for that reason.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but you haven't targeted the 206. So It's just a matter of moving the numbers around a little bit in order to do what you need to do. Because you're attaching some restrictions to the floor. Sheriff, you had something you want to offer that's pertinent to this?
Yes, thank you. I don't know if you know, I'm the president of the board on the Office of the Aging, and it doesn't matter, you want to restrict the money to that, they can find a way to move other funding that they have to cover it, and just make sure your 4,000 goes towards the end. That's not going to be a problem. We'll do it.
Okay, on the amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, on the resolution as amended, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Supervisor Wheeler is opposed. Abstained? Resolution is passed. Next up is a resolution amending 2013 tentative budget, Sheriff, sponsored by Sweet, seconded by Chiara. Discussion.
How many vehicles, Chair?
Pardon?
How many vehicles?
I believe that covers two. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Resolution is passed. And next up is a resolution amending 2013 tentative budget, public health, sponsored by Reshkowski, seconded by Sweet. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Resolution is passed. And resolution number 290 is a resolution adopting Montgomery County 2013 budget, Board of Supervisors, sponsored by Thayer, seconded by Sweet. Discussion. Supervisor Stagliano, and then
Chair.
Supervisor Chiara.
Chair, I placed in front of everyone a resolution to amend the budget as currently amended. Some of it's housekeeping, some of it is that we went back to other department heads and we asked them to rethink their budgets. And some of them, a few of them came back with suggestions. Two that I've got in there, Board of Elections, probation, the treasurer had responded. They were in the notes, and many of the supervisors didn't see the notes that were attached to their responses. So, I mean, I've included those in there. The housekeeping ones, I mean, is there a second?
I was just going to say before you go on too far, Supervisor Chiara, you going to second this amendment? Okay.
This is not lengthy. I mean, it goes down a page and a half. I can run through it quick. You can amend it. You can do what you want with it. But in the budget as it is, there are no NISAC fees in the current budget. So if you want to be a member of NISAC, we sort of have to put that back. In the insurances, we've already had agreed to the liability insurance. There was $520 in the budget. We really needed $533,400 in order so the next year we don't have to make a change. The next one down is emergency management. It slipped through the cracks somehow or another. Part of the note was there's a cell tower on Sanders Hill, town of Minden, in which is $800 a month, and that $9,600, that $10,000 had been removed. So the amendment here is to put that money back in the budget. We come down to the next one. It's the sales and use tax. Basically, this number that's in there now that I'm proposing, it would be that where we believe we will be at the end of this year, and all we have to do in order to hit it is to have the same quarter we had last year, and I think we're probably running ahead of that. Sean can either add to it or... the next one down, earlier in the year we had changed positions in the treasurer's office based on his recommendation. It was from an accountant to an accounting supervisor. There was an additional small compensation difference. So I put those in. The contractual expenses, if we're taking in more sales tax, we're going to distribute more sales tax, so that's offsetting part of it. The transfer to the M fund is, we already did that at the November 27th meeting. The issue is here is that the M fund really doesn't have a fund balance. The M fund really has some reserves that have yet to be split up. We don't know how much it is. We can look at a bank statement that runs monthly, and a bank statement runs 2.3 million. So you might think that, the counties do some of it, the cities do some of it. So in order to really balance the M fund, there would have to be a transfer to the M fund in the treasurer's budget. So that's why that's there. Unemployment insurance in the personnel budget, the current appropriation is $255,000. We're not laying off anyone to everybody's benefit. And so the question is, do you appropriate $255,000 for unemployment insurance when you're not laying anyone off? Hospital and medical insurance, there's the hospital, medical, dental, and vision below. I worked with our accountant that is working on the M fund, and actually in the M fund, well, in the general fund, the general fund's contribution could actually be lowered by that 101,000. So that's why that's there. The dental and the vision, the reason those are is because we removed some revenues from the personnel budget, and we brought them back to the M fund. Part of those were going to offset these costs, so that's why there's a reduction in dental and vision. And Sean, if I don't explain it right, pop in. Okay? Board of Elections was one of the ones that came back with, we harped on them, they came back in with a number of recommendations. All of them except for one is lower in their budget, so I included those. Social services, the reason I had those two lines in were those were two positions in the whole budget that haven't been filled. One of them hasn't been filled since January, the other one since June. So that's why I put those in. Youth, again, that one program is the only program, and she's believes that she will get the revenues for the special program revenue, so increasing that by 10,000. She also proposed a few of those other cuts, and she wanted to do that miscellaneous supporting services, which I think was the only youth program that we really do run out of there. Probation, another one, to her credit, she went out, where'd she go, let's see.
Right there.
She's hiding there somewhere. Okay, Lucille went out and found some areas where she could get some space from the Amsterdam PD and things like that. So she had recommended some reductions in her budget. We've already, I think, approved the lease, didn't we? So those were appropriate. The last one, the stop DWI, was that during the budget process, these were the only two salary increases in the whole budget. And so even though they were minor, there was enough discussion around that they should be removed so that we can say that no one got it. And the last one is that same $265,000 that would go in as an interfund transfer into the M fund, which will balance the insurance fund out. So those are all of them.
I have Supervisor Grifo first, then Ron. Go ahead.
Okay?
Yep.
Suspend rules, put this on the agenda first.
It's an amendment to this resolution.
It's being proposed as an amendment to Resolution 290.
Okay, on the item for the 10,000, the equipment rental lease, I'm going right down the line down there. Okay, can't that be taken out of the grants that they get? Or we have to,
The grants are something that would be applied for. Possibly they would get it, possibly not. They just put it in a recommendation to me, and I passed it along to the rest of the board. I can't, they would have to argue whether there's an alternate way of doing it. Which
My other comment is,